Thank you for downloading this Brum Radio podcast. For more podcasts, visit brumradio.com.
And now, for your listening pleasure, it's the Brum Picture Show, brought to you by Brum Radio.
Ho, ho, ho! And welcome to episode 4 of the Brum Picture Show on Brum Radio, a weekly film show covering local, independent and world cinema, brought to you by Birmingham-based community cinema collective Screen B14. We put on screenings around the Moseley and Kings Heath area, and now Brum Radio have been kind enough to let us waffle on about films on their station. Now, what's coming up on today's show? Well, as we're coming up to Christmas, today we're going to be stuffing your stockings with ideas for an alternative Christmas. That's right, we're going to be talking about Christmassy films that aren't that Christmassy, for those who maybe don't hate the festive period, but are certainly maybe ambivalent. But first of all, it's time to introduce my lovely colleagues. Now, if you listened last week, you may remember that Rory was off networking.
Boo!
At Real Brum. But, can't help but notice someone's come crawling back to the studio. So, Rory, I assume as you're here now that you still don't have a career.
Yeah. Working on it. Shout out to the guys at Real Brum. They didn't have a magic bullet for talent or, yeah. Also, I don't like your tone. I came representing the Brum Picture Show at Real Brum.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I spoke to at least 3 people.
3 people?
Yeah, and one of them, I didn't even bring it up.
Oh, yeah?
So 2 of them, I did bring it up.
Oh.
And one of them went, you do the Brum Picture Show.
I recognise you from the radio.
I recognise that soothing voice.
Wow. So you are already a celebrity, really?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, this is all I needed, it turns out. Why aim for anything higher than this?
Well, that's good. Well,
I don't want to brag, but people have said that last episode was the best episode so far.
I think you said that.
Yeah, I am a person.
And who are you, person?
Well, I am the head programmer for Screen B14.
And what's your name?
My name's Nadine, and I'm a filmmaker in my own right. I don't need to go to networking night. No, I actually really wanted to go to networking night, but I am a key holder, and if I wasn't here, no one would have been able to get into the studio. Right. So I had to give up my right to go to the Real Brum networking event. But I just want to say, in all seriousness, it's good to have you back, Rory. I'm not a Woody Allen fan, but if you've ever seen Vicky Cristina Barcelona, there's a little speech that Penelope Cruz gives. And she said, sometimes the body needs certain things and it doesn't function well without them. Vitamins and minerals. And you're like our salt, Rory. Without you, we would die.
That was the nicest thing anyone has ever said to me.
So coming up in the show, we are going to be discussing alternative Christmas films, and we're going to have a review section of things that we've seen recently. And coming up next will be the news section. But first of all, we need to get serious here on the Brum Picture Show and seriously apologise for something. Now, last week, we were talking about Ridley Scott, and in that discussion about Ridley Scott, we wrongly said that South Shields, Ridley Scott's hometown, was in Yorkshire.
I'm so sorry. I dropped the ball on that one.
Apparently so. So this led to us performing an impression of Ridley Scott in my attempt at a Yorkshire accent, and that has been described as at best a travesty and at worst a hate crime. So we have been angrily informed that South Shields is not in Yorkshire. It is in the metropolitan county of Tyne and Wear, and historically County Durham. And therefore, we would like to apologise profusely to the people of both of those counties. So it turns out that our impression of Ridley Scott should have actually sounded like this. Why aye, man?
Why, man?
Why aye, man? I'm Ridley Scott. Me. F off.
What has happened here?
No, this is serious. I've seen the kids of Biker Grove. That is a gang. We do not want Ant and Dec, PJ and Duncan on our cases.
No, Ridley Scott.
Or Cheryl Cole.
I've got to say, the 1 week I'm not here, this show is threatened being cancelled. And I thought I was going to be the cause of that.
I mean...
Or at least Paul. It sounds like it's your doing.
I'd also like to sincerely apologise to Mr. Andrews, my geography teacher. Obviously, your lessons didn't sink in. I thought Ridley Scott was from Yorkshire. I didn't know where County Durham is, and I've been educated now. So thank you for all those who wrote in to correct us.
So many people.
So many. The inbox was flooded.
It was full. We had to delete old emails just to let in the torrent of hate.
Yeah.
This is the hate I wanted.
Exactly. And you weren't even here to provoke it. So anyway.
Typical.
So that's a shame. But Nadine, do we have any other listener emails?
We do. We have 2 emails from the same person. They're quite keen, I think, to get on the air.
Go on.
And this is not the first email they've sent us.
This is worrying me.
Do you know a Chris or a Skip?
I do believe I have encountered in my life a Chris or a Skip.
A Chris also named Skip?
Why? What's he got to say for himself?
Well, he says, "Hi again, film friends. Hope we're all ship-shape and groovy." I don't know if Skip's short for skipper, but his emails tend to have quite a nautical tone to them. In terms of Paul's attempted controversy, Spaceballs is genuinely regarded as a weak Mel Brooks movie and spent so long with rights issues it arrived long after the Star Wars zeitgeist. On that note, they were not allowed to use Han Solo's likeness, which is why the character of Lone Star is dressed as Indiana Jones instead. Muppets Christmas Carol, very in keeping with today's show, is a masterpiece and actually financially saved Henson Productions and the first film made after Jim's death. My friend's dad happened to play the ghost of Christmas Present too. Anyway, good to know that Hovis was a real breadwinner for Ridley. And I remember the chocolate commercial, so perhaps Paul's memory is a little flaky.
Oh my goodness, wow.
Totally agree on Alien versus Aliens, but Ridley is a far superior filmmaker to Cameron, who is more of an FX showcaser in lieu of quality. Looking at you, Avatar.
Ooh. Well. Ooh.
Only about 10 minutes into today's episode, but feel I've waffled long enough, so I'll cap it off. Looking forward, as ever, to the next episode.
The idea of pausing the episode 10 minutes in to construct this email and then unpausing it. It's incredible to me.
I don't know whether to be flattered or deeply concerned.
Wow, that wasn't the last we heard from Chris Skip.
Oh my goodness.
Just a quick thank you, Nadine, for choosing the director's cut of Kingdom of Heaven. It's a completely different movie and far superior. Couldn't agree more, Chris Skip Chris. Orlando is still the weak link, but I don't rate him as an actor. The DVD box set extras are so interesting, and I guess that's where you got your Siege Tower fact. What a ridiculous supporting cast and a true epic. And I have to say, Chris, you are right. I did get my Siege Tower fact from the extras and the DVD, and they're well worth watching. They really go into quite a deep dive into sort of... It's quite interesting, actually, like how the studio interfered. Like, it's surprising that that's actually on the official DVD extras. Yeah. But, you know, obviously, they were happy enough to sort of commission the director's cut not long after the theatrical came out. So I guess they're all friends in the end. But yes, thank you for that, Chris.
Oh, that's nice. And I suppose, you know, DVD extras are quite a reasonable place to get facts from. You're not going to get it from, I don't know,
a book. It's the 21st century, man.
Yeah, man.
Mind you, DVDs.
Well, yeah. Not a thing.
The 20th century.
Yeah, remember DVD extras, guys? Remember?
Yeah. Well, they were my first film school. So if you're thinking about going to uni to study film, I would say save your money, get some cheap DVDs off eBay or wherever, and just watch them, because that's you probably learn a lot more about filmmaking that way.
No, it's true.
I'm sure the filmmakers' parents would be very happy to hear that advice, Nadine.
Well, I mean, thanks, Chris, for sending that in, I suppose. Yeah, try and keep your emails to one per episode, maybe. Just
That would help.
Listen to the whole thing and then tell us your thoughts. But we appreciate the fact that you've taken the trouble to get in touch. So bless you. Okay, well, I guess it's now time to be moving on for a brief little look at the news. And, well, I got to say, I was having a little scroll through the news, and it does seem like slim pickings at the moment. I don't know whether that's because it's coming up to Christmas or something. But I saw a few things that seemed like vaguely interesting news stories. This ties in with our Christmassy theme this week. Apparently, Olivia Wilde is set to direct a Christmas comedy called Naughty, with Margot Robbie's Lucky Chap production company. It is described as Bridesmaids, but in the North Pole. Now, I don't care much for Bridesmaids. I quite like the North Pole. I've never been, but it seems quite snowy and nice. Certainly Christmassy, so that's good. I didn't think that Don't Worry Darling, her last film that was more of a news story than a film in the end. I didn't think it was as bad as a lot of people said. I thought it was like a nice, flawed Twilight Zone episode that went on a bit too long. But Booksmart was a masterpiece. So hopefully it will be a return to form and be more of a film and less of a gossip column. Yeah. So that's my hope for that one.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Another news story that I saw was Oscar Isaac has been pictured carrying a Christmas tree.
Ooh.
That was literally the story.
Wow.
There's a picture.
I'm shocked.
Yeah, a picture of Oscar Isaac carrying a Christmas tree in black and white. Another one, my last one. The first poster for Alex Garland's Civil War has been released, and the trailer is forthcoming for that. Now, he is one of my favourite directors. I don't think he's really put a set wrong, but I must...
Men?
Men was rubbish.
I loved Men. Men was amazing.
I love Men, but I did not love Men.
No, that was a really good cinematic experience for me, because I went to see Men when I was working in Cornwall, and it was a beautiful summer's day, and I was the only person in the screening, literally, and I was just sitting there going, oh, I wish I was watching this with an audience, because often I like having the screen to myself. Like, I went to see Clint Eastwood's Cry Macho, and I had the screen to myself for that, and I thought, well, I'm glad I'm here, because it would be a really sad thought that Clint Eastwood, who I love, his new film would be playing to an empty cinema. But Men has like one of the most bonkers third acts I've ever seen. Rory and Nadine are just shaking their heads, and it was something that I wish I could just hear an audience go, what is this?
Yeah, that's exactly the noise I made watching it.
Yeah, well, anyway.
With a few more expletives, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I respectfully disagree with you both on that one. I thought it was great. So yeah, he is one of my favourite directors, and his new film, Civil War, is going to be coming out soon. Anyway, anything else in the news?
Yes, there's some news that might affect our Birmingham cinema lovers. The Omniplex Cinema Group, Ireland's largest cinema company, has announced that it will open a rebranded cinema in Birmingham on the 6th of December after acquiring the former Empire Cinema location. So those of you who were in, dire need of another Omniplex, your prayers have been answered. But it's actually a good thing. I think, we don't like to see any cinemas closing, whether they're independents or whether they're part of a chain. So I think that's great news for those who've been missing their Empire Cinema in Birmingham.
So Nadine, where is this new cinema located?
So it's at the former Empire Cinema location at Great Park, Rubery.
Well, thanks. That was very interesting indeed, Nadine.
Oh, I have another news.
Another news.
I have another news. So, one of my favourite controversial uncles of cinema, Paul Schrader. Uncle Paul. Paul is quite famous for using Facebook as his kind of diatribe outlet. And if you don't know who Paul is, he wrote Taxi Driver and Raging Bull, and he directed American Gigolo and a number of other films, First Reformed. And he describes his own films as like men in rooms writing in diaries, basically. So basically him writing his diatribes onto Facebook. And he must have been listening to last week's show, Paul, because he's seen Saltburn.
Oh.
And he wanted to give an opinion on it.
Did he now?
Unfortunately, his was not so generous. He says it's a bad film. He thinks it's a rip-off of the talented Mr. Ripley. He described Barry Keoghan as being plain, which I do take issue with. You could say a lot of things about Barry Keoghan, but I wouldn't call him plain. I would say he's quite striking. So he's described it as basically a lesser version of the talented Mr. Ripley. And when questioned about this slightly withering review, he said, instead of withering, you could say a slightly accurate review. So, gloves are off.
That Paul Schrader. Wow.
Another bit of news about Paul, he is a Swiftie. He is obsessed with Taylor Swift, genuinely, like to the point where it's a little bit scary. Like he adores her. He thinks she's the best thing since sliced bread. So, you know, a complicated man, a man of many. He did love Promising Young Woman. He thought that was a great film, but he didn't have any time for Saltburn.
Do you think he's ever gone to a film and gone, that was okay? He feels like a man who's never worn gloves. The gloves are always
Yeah. He does like to speak in extremes. Like the Twitter account of his Facebook updates is just a glorious thing to follow. It really is, because he's like extreme Ridley Scott in the cantankerous.
He makes
thing.
Ridley Scott look like a cuddly little bunny rabbit, doesn't he?
He does. Very good. Anything else? Anything else in the news catch your eye, Rory?
Yeah, I've got some news.
Yeah.
News. The Little Theatre Cinema in Bath. This is on the BBC website. Basically, they had a screening for Elf, in which owners were accompanied by their dogs, or dogs were accompanied by their owners. That was on the BBC website.
Right.
Yeah.
For Elf.
For Elf. It seems a bit like a marketing ploy, that.
Almost as groundbreaking as Oscar Isaac and his Christmas tree.
Indeed.
What's more boring as a news piece? Oscar Isaac and his Christmas tree, or
I don't know, the idea of a load
I haven't seen that
dogs.
picture of Oscar Isaac with his Christmas tree.
I mean, it's a good picture, man. He's carrying that Christmas tree well.
But
Wow.
the key here, the person Tom Fraser from the cinema, he said this. Normally, they have to leave them at home. That's the dogs. To go to events like this, but we wanted to be inclusive as possible.
Oh my
That's
God.
from Tom. There we go. A
all right.
trailblazer,
Wow.
I would say.
So,
Does he charge double? Like, do the dogs have to pay as well as the owners?
yeah, and did the dogs sit on a seat, like next to
On
their
their
owner,
laps?
or on
I
their
think
laps?
The
or-
deed-
This could be a money
Or do they just
making.
roam
This could
free?
be a racket.
The article really left out some details.
Very
We want
im-
more information. If you know whether dogs have to pay separately, do email us in at pictureshow@brumradio.com.
Wow. Well, that's top quality film journalism right there, all round, I'd say.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Over to you.
Now it is time for our main feature. And as I mentioned before, this week we are talking about alternative Christmas films. Films that are Christmassy, but not that Christmassy. So we're not talking about anti-Christmas films, we're not talking about films for people who absolutely hate Christmas. We're talking about films that you don't necessarily think of as a Christmas film, but they are nevertheless Christmassy. Would you agree with that, Nadine?
Yeah. Christmas films for people who don't like Christmas films, I call it.
All right, that's good. But first of all, let's have a bit of a general chat about Christmas. Do we like Christmas?
Yeah, I love Christmas, man.
Yeah.
I'm a Christmas guy.
Christmas.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't have a Christmas jumper. And so I actually feel quite left out when it's like, wear your Christmas jumper to work day, because no one's ever bought me a Christmas jumper. So, what about me?
you could buy yourself one.
No, but like, you can buy yourself a Christmas jumper.
That is possible, yeah.
I thought your gran had to knit it for you. I thought your grandma had to knit them for you. No, in fact, we were having this conversation just the other day in Screen B14, and I was talking to our chair, Ben. We may meet in a future episode about what I like to watch at Christmas, and all my Christmassy films. It was all like really silly things, but I do have this tradition of watching a TV show called North and South, which I love, but it's not in any way Christmassy. Like, it's not set at Christmas. Somebody mentions the word Christmas once. And there's a lot of, it's like set in this mill, and this cotton mill, and there's all this fluff flying about, and it looks like snow, and it does snow once. And I think that is literally like why I connected to Christmas. And it's a tradition, and every year I have to watch it. And I was describing it to Ben and my friends at Screen B14 and saying how it's about all these Victorians and they keep dying off, and then another one dies, and then this man nearly sets the mill on fire, and there's a lot of union stuff going on. So it's really, really Christmassy stuff there. But then when I actually thought about it, I realised, no, I do have a proper traditional Christmas film that I have to watch. And in fact, I insist on watching it at Christmas. Much to the kind of, chagrin of my family, and that is The Snowman.
The Snowman?
The Snowman, yeah,
what,
sorry, I've got
Michael Fassbender serial killer movie?
No, not that Snowman. The original Snowman. It's so quaint, and I despise quaintness, but it's so quaint with its hand-drawn quality. It's actually directed by a woman, I believe, which is quite radical back then. There's still not many female directors of animation. And it's so beautiful, and it's just so ubiquitous. It's not Christmas unless I watch The Snowman. If I go through a Christmas and I haven't watched The Snowman, and I'm not talking about The Snowman and the Snow Dog people, I'm talking about the original Snowman. I'm not talking about the Polar Bear or even Father Christmas. None of these. It's got to be the original 80s. Not only is it got to be the original 80s version of The Snowman, but it's got to be introduced by David Bowie. Because on my VHS version that I watched repeatedly as a child, David Bowie introduced the Snowman.
It's the Snowman.
I knew it.
And did you know, if you've not seen David Bowie introduce the Snowman, then you don't realise that it's actually about him as a child.
What?
Yes. David Bowie introduces the Snowman. He has a scarf. He has a Christmas jumper. He has a Christmas jumper. I don't have one. David Bowie has one with little snowmen on, and tells us about a time when he was a boy and he made a snowman and all this magical.
Wow.
So yes,
Must be about him.
Must be about
it is
you.
about him. So
He had a scarf.
So you can't fully appreciate the Snowman without realising it's about David Bowie's childhood. And if you don't believe me, please look it up on YouTube.
Wow.
Was he the man who invented snowmen?
He's the boy. So that is my genuine, traditional, proper Christmas film.
So Rory, any traditional Christmas films for you that take up Christmas time?
There's a few ones. When Harry Met Sally. I like.
Is that Christmassy?
Well, not. Yeah, there's a bit of Christmas. It was New Year's, and there's a bit of Christmas. It goes through the seasons.
Okay.
It's not specifically a Christmas film. I just love that film. So that. What did I watch? Brief Encounter, I think I watched. That's not a Christmas film.
Yeah, you're not really answering the question.
No, these are just films I watched coincidentally around that time.
Nightmare Before Christmas.
That's too scary. I never liked that.
And then you have to get into the debate of whether it's a Christmas film or a Halloween film.
It's both, for goodness sake. That's just not a debate that needs to be had anymore.
Well, isn't that so clever? that they made a film that you can watch twice a year.
Yes, within 6 weeks of each other.
And I do.
That is a great ploy. Well, yeah, I suppose my Christmas. Well, you know my Christmas tradition, the Muppet Christmas Carol. Yeah, it's just amazing. And also nowadays, I guess Paddington has become quite a Christmas staple, and very much enjoyed watching the new Mary Poppins film last year, which I'm not sure has got Christmas in it, but it was Christmassy. It felt Christmassy anyway.
That was good, actually.
Yeah,
Emily Blunt. Yeah,
yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it. Watched it at my grandparents' house, and we all had a nice time. Well, I guess we should probably move on to actually talking about what we're supposed to be talking about. That's enough actual Christmas. We're here to talk about alternative Christmas stuff. So we're each going to choose our alternative-y Christmas film. And first up is Nadine. So Nadine, what have you chosen for your alternative Christmas film?
Well, you know, this is a film that's so Christmassy. It may have sort of gone the sort of Die Hard route, and it might be just silly to even mention it, and that's Eyes Wide Shut. Obviously it's a Christmas movie. It's everybody's favourite Christmas movie, isn't it? Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman.
Yeah.
And their sad marriage. and stuff going on at the elite mansion that we won't mention at this time on a Saturday, but certainly puts the X into Xmas, the triple X into Xmas perhaps.
Unless you're watching the TV version where they've CGI'd clothing onto people.
Really? I should watch that. To be honest, this is going to sound silly since this is my pick. I'm not a big fan of nudity in films.
You prude.
Look,
that was my main complaint about Oppenheimer, that there wasn't enough nudity. They're all like, oh, there's going to be all this nudity in Florence Pugh.
Where's this nudity?
Barely anything. Rubbish.
Wow.
2 stars.
No, that's not why I want to talk about it. What I find really fascinating about Eyes Wide Shut, apart from it being sort of a sort of live disintegration of the Cruise-Kidman marriage that many people have said, and I don't know if this is true, but many people have said this is the film that broke their marriage. I don't know if that's the truth, but that's what a lot of people read into it. It certainly did put a lot of pressure on them, especially with Kubrick's notorious, multiple takes. But what I'm interested in talking about is kind of like Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. There's a lot of conspiracy theories and a lot of fan theories around this film. And what is more Christmassy than a conspiracy theory? So, I mean, it doesn't have quite as much as The Shining, which I've heard there's so many theories about The Shining that they literally made a documentary on it. But there's some interesting ones. One of the prevalent ones is that Kubrick was onto something so dark and so kind of mind-blowing when it comes to the elites that rule the world, that they took him out. Yes, because this is... honestly.
It wasn't the fact that he was a morbidly obese 70-odd-year-old man.
He was onto some stuff, man. You scoff away. He was about to expose some elites out there, the Illuminati, if you will, because he was a researcher. We all know he was really meticulous with his research. There was some stuff that he wanted to get out there, and this was the last film he ever made, and he died before it was released. So the version that we have is not his version. This is the version the studio put out, and there are scenes that we may never see in the director's cut. Stanley Kubrick's original vision that probably went just a little too far for the elites and their weird parties at their mansions. And I'm not saying this. I'm not saying, please don't come at me, elites, with your whatever you did to Stanley or didn't do. I'm not saying this. This is just what I've heard. This is just what people on the internet are saying. But yeah, I just find that quite fascinating. So it's based on Arthur Schnitzler's dream story, which I believe is called Traumnovelle or something in the original German, which I just want to bring up because I was walking past the German Christmas market in Birmingham the other day and I saw a sign for Chocolate Traum. And
chocolate trauma. That
yes,
sounds like a good description of the German
that's
market.
how I like to think of it, as a chocolate trauma. No, trauma, I don't know if I'm
The
pronouncing
alternate title for A Charlie in the Chocolate Factory.
chocolate trauma. It sounds like my typical Christmas, a chocolate trauma, to be honest. No, trauma, apologies if I'm pronouncing this incorrectly, is German for dream. And if you're a fan of Shutter Island, you'll know it's also for wound.
Oh.
So that's just a little fun fact there. Little
fun.
Christmassy based chocolate trauma. But yeah, it's based on a novella, I believe, that Stanley Kubrick had read. Some of it's a little closer to the novel. Obviously, Kubrick modernised it. He set it in New York. Interestingly enough, he set it in New York, but filmed it all in England, including all the shots of Tom Cruise walking around New York streets, which I have to say, when the first couple of times I watched this film, didn't notice at all, but were all filmed in a studio with rear projection. Because Kubrick famously had a lot in common with Mr. T. He wasn't getting on no planes and filmed pretty much all of his films, including The Shining. Okay, the aerial shots with the helicopters were shot in America.
And also reused in Blade Runner.
Exactly. Tying it in with last week's show. But yeah, so Kubrick he lived in the UK, was from America, didn't like getting into planes, filmed the whole of Full Metal Jacket in the UK. So all those scenes in Vietnam, Thames Estuary, planted palm trees along, and this is not a joke. This is the truth.
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't get in a plane. Let's turn the Thames Estuary into Vietnam. But yeah, that was just something I want to talk about. But in terms of the Christmassy thing, the look of it is so Christmassy. There's these beautiful twinkling lights in practically every scene. There's big Christmas parties. Nicole Kidman is wearing some amazing Christmas outfits when she's got clothes on, and it ends in a kind of in a Christmas sort of shopping sort of store with giant. It's got like the world's largest teddy bear in it. So there's Christmas all around us. It's Christmas is sort of dripping off the walls in this film. So it does give you in a weird sense a very Christmassy feel, even if the story is not your typical Christmas fable. But yeah, that's why it's my pick. Because, like I said, what's more Christmassy than conspiracy theories, a disintegrating Hollywood marriage, and some twinkly lights?
Well, that's a beautiful pick, Nadine. Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen it, but I do enjoy it very much. It's one that is oft maligned, I think, by some people, but
I think it's been reevaluated. I think when it was originally released, the critics did not care for it. They didn't find it sort of, I guess, serious enough to be a work of Kubrick. They didn't understand all the adult themes. I think people are coming round to it now. And obviously they didn't know about all the conspiracy stuff that was deeply hidden in there.
Interesting. So why didn't the conspiracy nuts, get after Kubrick for admitting he faked the moon landing with The Shining? Because that wasn't just subtext, that was text in that film, wasn't it?
Maybe it was accumulative. Maybe this was the last straw.
He's given away too much. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, poor Stanley, taken too soon. So I'm going to talk about, again, something that's not really that alternative, because it is literally set at Christmas, but still, it's not one that often comes up as people just going, oh, yes, let's watch this, it's a Christmas film. And that is The Green Knight from 2021. It's a really beautifully shot film, and I think it's a masterpiece that should have been far more successful than it actually was. I genuinely think it's an all-time classic, and of course I do, because it's from the ever-amazing A24, our favourite film production / distributors, or as Ridley Scott says, A23. Bless him, he's a fan. But yeah, they make the best films. It's directed by David Lowery, who made The Old Man and the Gun with Robert Redford, which was a wicked film, and also A Ghost Story, if you remember that, with
I do, Casey Affleck.
Casey Affleck going around in a white sheet.
Yeah.
Love that film.
And it's a wonderful film about grief and the best depiction of eating a pie ever committed to celluloid, if you remember that. someone eats a pie in it for a really long
About
time.
7 minutes. Isn't it?
I think it literally is. It's
Not as good as Barry Keoghan eating spaghetti in Killing of a Sacred Deer.
I don't remember that bit.
Oh my God.
Does it last for 7 minutes?
No, but it doesn't need to.
Okay.
It says what it needs to say in well, it could last for. I haven't timed it, Paul.
All right. Well,
but
time
it's
it
quite,
and come back to us.
It's a sight to behold.
I'm intrigued. So refresh my memory about this. About the spaghetti. He just eats some spaghetti.
It's got sauce on it. He gets the sauce all over his face, and he talks about his father who died.
Right.
Spoiler alert, people who haven't seen the film. And he talks about how
Didn't know there'd be spaghetti in this. It's ruined.
But he talks about how people would say to him that he eats spaghetti just like his father, and then how he realised afterwards that everybody eats spaghetti the same. But I posit nobody eats spaghetti quite like Barry Keoghan in that film. Hopefully not, because they'd make an awful mess if they did. But yeah, sorry to derail.
Well, no. I encourage you derailing it extra. I was genuinely intrigued. I'm going to have to revisit Killing of a Sacred Deer because I love that film as well.
And you love spaghetti.
And I love spaghetti.
Oh my
yet
goodness.
somehow spaghetti wasn't my main takeaway from that film.
It's my main takeaway today. We did eat some spaghetti
Anyway.
lentil ragu earlier.
But anyway, eating a pie was definitely my main takeaway from A Ghost Story. No, it's an amazing film. I thoroughly recommend it. But anyway, The Green Knight. It's directed by David Lowery and adapted from the 14th century poem Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. And Dev Patel plays Gawain, nephew of the king. He's a bit of a wastrel, needs to prove his worthiness, so his mother summons the Green Knight to sort him out. And the Green Knight turns up at Christmas time and says that anyone who lands a blow on him will win his green axe. But the caveat is that next year at Christmas time, he's going to come back and return the blow. Ooh. And so ensues an epic adventure of fantasy, intrigue, and most excitingly, a talking fox. Not a disturbing talking fox like Fantastic Mr. Fox, if you remember our Wes Anderson episode, but I'd say, pretty decent fox. Do you remember the fox?
Very vaguely. Yeah, I remember the giants that reminded me of the Attack on Titan anime. They were quite disturbing. The naked giants just sort of wandering around.
Yes, I remember that. Okay, very good. Well, I remember the fox. You remember the giants. Rory, have you seen it?
I saw the first 20 minutes.
What do you remember from the first 20 minutes?
Did he cut the guy's head off, and then he's offered a challenge, wasn't it? Or something what was the challenge?
Yeah.
It was the quest, and I thought at that point, which is why I turned it off. I thought
I hate quests.
I probably wouldn't accept it.
This just isn't believable.
No.
It just felt a bit, I'd rather not.
Wow.
Just
Okay.
live my
same,
life.
mate.
So that's when I.
Wow.
And I know that film means so much to you. That's probably hard to hear. But that's
I do think it's beautifully shot.
It is
Yeah,
beautiful,
well,
sure.
that's one of the things I wanted to say mainly about it. Is it's just astonishing how amazing this film looks. It is beautiful, and it cost $15 million to make.
Which isn't much. No, I think that is incredible.
Yeah.
What they've done on that budget.
Yeah.
And it is so distinctive visually.
Mm-hmm.
It's very it's an art house movie, you'd say, wouldn't you?
I guess so, but I don't know. I feel like
I don't know. It's not for I don't think it's for casual viewers.
But it's got a talking fox.
Is that what the casual
That's
viewer?
my criteria for a mainstream film. If you got a talking fox in it, you're in.
See, as a what would probably be the what I've been accused of as the representation of the casual viewer. That fox wasn't in the first 20 minutes. You got to bring
that
the
is
fox
true.
in early.
Yeah.
I like the decapitation. That
I
was
think
nice.
Yeah.
The fox got to
We
come in
needed
early.
more
Fair
fox.
enough.
I think that was the problem.
And no
I like
quests.
the snow. There's lots of weird shots of just snow.
Yeah.
That's quite Christmassy.
No, it is. Yeah, it's a lovely film. I think it looks gorgeous. The set design and everything that they use matte painting, which is just really cool, and very minimal digital effects. And I just think the tone's great because it's really dark but also quite funny. And apparently Lowry directed Ralph Ineson, I don't know, who plays the Green Knight, to play a little bit like Santa Claus. So I don't know. I just thought it was an incredibly enjoyable romp and lovely to look at and Christmassy. So there you go. That is what I would watch this Christmas time.
Fair. I think I might give it another go. What do you think, Rory?
Yeah.
Get
you
to
won't,
the
though,
talking
will you?
facts. He's such a liar.
Such a
I
liar.
think I actually will now.
Yeah.
Let's all watch it for Christmas.
Now that the fox has been introduced.
Yeah. Well, that was my pick. The Green Knight from 2021, directed by David Lowery. Watch it. So, Rory, what is your alternative Christmas pick?
So my alternative Christmas pick is Gremlins. I don't know, is it alternative enough at this point? It is very Christmassy.
It's extremely Christmassy, but I don't know.
It's quite sad. It's not. Yeah, I think let's allow it.
It's a dark Christmas
Yeah,
film,
it's
that's for sure.
definitely.
You're not
Yeah.
necessarily going to watch it with the family. I don't know.
And my mum
actually,
loves
you would.
it. Actually,
Yeah,
my
yeah.
mum would insist on watching it.
So you might say that you've completely misunderstood the brief, but
Yeah.
It's quite depressing. There's the story. Well, I don't want to get into it, but a young girl tells a story about her dad
yeah,
in it
yeah.
that I just find so depressing.
Yeah, it's one of the darkest stories.
Yeah, it's one of the darkest Christmas films. I think you've outdone us with Dark Christmas, haven't you?
Yeah. So yeah, no, go on, Rory. You've I apologise. You've fulfilled the brief perfectly. Talk
Cool.
about Gremlins now.
So have you ever when you've got a present under the tree and you've opened it up and it's this thing that's really cute and you love, and but then that thing ends up trying to kill your entire family and your community
Yeah.
around you.
It's really annoying when that
Are
happens.
you talking about my cat?
You're talking about mine,
What's your cat's name?
Flea.
This is for Flea. Yeah, so if that's ever happened to you, then you would relate to this film. But maybe you would relate to this film just in terms of getting a disappointing gift. I don't know. But it's basically about... this kid's dad he's gone to this Chinese man's shop and he's tried to buy this thing called a mogwai.
Mogwai.
A mogwai. A Mowgli.
Mogwai.
A mogwai. Is it a mogwai?
It's a
Yeah,
Mogwai.
it's definitely a
It's
Mogwai.
like the post-rock band, Mogwai.
Okay, mogwai. That reference didn't help. It's like this extremely niche thing you might have heard of. Oh, okay. Cheers, Paul.
I heard of it.
And then the guy doesn't want to give it to him because it's a disaster waiting to happen on Christmas Day. But then I think his grandson sells it to him on the side. Yeah, like when he comes out,
Right.
and then he gives it to him. But and there's all these rules. The rules are you should never expose it to light because that kills it. You should never put water on it because then it multiplies. And then the biggest thing is you should never feed it after midnight. Now I remember watching this at sort of maybe 10 years old, and even at that point thinking, but won't you always eat after midnight?
Yeah, I
So
had
how
the
does it
same.
eat?
Yeah. At what point is it allowed to eat?
What if he's on a plane? How does that
Yeah.
work?
Yeah, I never went.
You didn't
but-
think about this, did you, Joan Dante?
Yeah, but no, apparently they did because the three rules actually came. It wasn't in the original script. It came during the production of it, and then they were worried about that.
Oh, right.
So then they screened it, and then to get feedback, and no one cared.
No one cared.
So they were like, "Cool, let's just do that." So that was quite interesting.
Yeah.
And I think it was released as a PG, but they created the PG-13 from Gremlins, as well as Temple of Doom, because they felt like microwaving a gremlin was a bit too graphic.
and putting one in a blender.
I love revisiting 80s children's films because you think, I've got a daughter and I went back and watched a lot of films with her that I watched as a child, and you get to certain bits like microwaving beloved creatures, and you're like, I don't know if this is a kids' film. Is it a kids' film?
There's also quite a lot of swearing in like 80s
and a lot of
kids.
casual nudity in films that I watched as kids. That I'm like, I forgot about that. Interesting fact there, Ross.
There you go. But I think I don't watch that every Christmas, but I've watched it. Yeah. If your Christmases are full of sort of, family conflicts and chaos and relationships breaking down, maybe you would relate to that film also. If that brings you back to Christmas.
Yeah, nothing
everyone's
more Christmassy.
sighed, didn't you?
Nothing more Christmassy than family conflict, is there?
Exactly.
But maybe watching Gremlins can bring them all together.
Yeah. Well, that's a lovely thought, isn't it? No, but solid pick, Rory. That is, dark, amusing, and it's got some fluffy creatures in it.
And some ugly, sticky ones as well.
Exactly. Well, I guess that just about wraps up our main feature on alternative Christmas films. So if you would like to add your thoughts to this discussion, please do email us at pictureshow@brumradio.com.
Or get at us on our social medias at ScreenB14 on all the main ones, and hashtag Brum Picture Show.
Yeah, please do. You are listening to the Brum Picture Show on Brum Radio, and we've just been talking about our alternative Christmas films, and now we're just going to be talking about the general films that we've seen recently, either at the cinema or at home. So, who's going to go first on this one?
I watched May December, directed by Todd Haynes. It's now available on Now TV for all you streaming fans, and it's starring Natalie Portman and Julianne Moore. And it's a woman who has become notorious in a very tabloid, scandally way for her very inappropriate relationship with a 13-year-old when she was in her 30s. He's grown up now, they're married, they've got kids. This isn't a spoiler, this is all in the beginning of the film. And Natalie Portman is an actress and plans to play this woman, who's portrayed by Julianne Moore, in an upcoming film based on their love story, if you call it a love story. Some people have called this a camp film. Todd Haynes disagrees with that label. I'm not so sure. I think definitely the soundtrack is very TV movie from the 90s in a really kind of odd way. And there's some really weird moments that feel comedic that you're not expecting earlier. I mean, there's a moment where Julianne Moore opens a fridge, and there's this that sounds odd. She opens a fridge, and the music is so melodramatic as she opens the fridge to find that there isn't any hot dogs or whatever it is that's going on. And it's just like, if that isn't camp, I don't know what is. But I think, if anything, it makes the movie. I quite like that it's a little bit off. And it's got this very dreamy kind of atmospheric cinematography. It's in the South. It's kind of a little bit reminiscent of Sofia Coppola's The Beguiled. All these shots of sort of this light leaking into the lenses, sort of, but in a very, again, in a sort of over-the-top way. It's almost too much. And I wonder if that's to tie in with this kind of tabloid, scandally, TV, movie, fodder subject matter that the film is based on. It's actually inspired by some real-life stuff. But yeah, I thought it was a really good film. At the same time, I don't know if I'd watch it many times again. But if you like something that's a bit if you like a bit of glorious trash, and I do, and me and my sister love a bit of glorious trash, then I think it's worth watching. It takes a very trashy, tabloidy subject matter, but plays it a little bit more seriously. So yeah, I'd recommend that. And I also watched, interestingly enough, To Die For, which is on ITVX, another Nicole Kidman film with Joaquin Phoenix as well. And I only mention that because I feel like they cover some very similar ground. So, both about older women quite manipulative, having relationships with younger men who are too young. Well, I wouldn't even call them men, with children, let's face it. And sort of, the fallout of that, I guess. I felt they were covering very similar territory, very different tones, I think. Absolutely loved Nicole Kidman's wardrobe in To Die For, I have to say. Although I felt it was I have the same gripe with it that I have with a lot of modern films, in that it's very plot-based. And I don't mind quite a fast-paced film, but I felt like we never sat with the characters for very long, and it was just kind of getting through the story, which I would say is something that I couldn't say about May December, which feels very much a character piece. Love Joaquin Phoenix's performance in it. I am a Joaquin fangirl from way back in the day. Literally, I had so many DVDs of his in the noughties. I was a bit obsessed. But yeah, really intense performance. There's a moment actually in To Die For where he just starts shaking uncontrollably. And I'm just like, how did he do that? Like, I don't think I could like shake uncontrollably on command. But, that's why he's one of our greatest actors. That's what he got his Oscar for. But, well, maybe not.
Best shaking in a film.
Yeah, very intense. No, but he's very intense. If there's one thing that Joaquin can do, it's intensity and vulnerability, and both are on showcase in this film. Nicole Kidman is fun, brilliant, but the film itself just didn't grab me, and I don't think it just feel like it didn't settle. I think the way it was portrayed as well, it was like lots of different points of view. Something about the structure of it I didn't enjoy, but certainly worth checking out. So those are my 2 picks from this weekend.
Oh, lovely. That sounds both worth checking out. I'd love to see Joaquin Phoenix doing some shaking.
Wouldn't we all?
Rory, you watched any films recently?
Yeah, I watched Leave the World Behind.
I wanted to watch this because it seems to be one of the only films that Netflix has actually bothered to advertise. I've seen it on buses and everything, so I knew this film existed.
Yeah, it's I think it's the number 1 on Netflix UK at the moment.
Okay.
I wasn't the biggest fan. So the film is about a family getaway. They go to a luxurious rental home, and just to get out, I think they're very stressed. They looked very stressed. And yeah, they go and it turns out life gets a whole lot more stressful. There's a cyber attack, and then 2 strangers arrive at the door in the middle of the night, but they own the house. So then they're forced to come in, or they ask if they can come in, and the family aren't happy about it. It just didn't. It was so stilted. The dialogue was so stilted. I felt it was all expositionary at the start. It caught my attention because there is a really like an amazing scene, and it's where they're all on the beach and they're staring at this oil tanker, and it just approaches sort of slowly. And at first they're thinking, oh, that's a very close oil tanker. And then like 2 hours go by and it's like, oh, that is really close. What's going on? And then another 2 hours go by, and then something dawns on them that it's coming towards them. You think they could have reacted a bit quicker. And then suddenly like, oh my God, we're going to get hit by this oil tanker. So yeah, but I thought that was quite interesting. And I like Ethan Hawke as well. I think he's really good.
Yeah,
he's good in everything, isn't he?
He's
even if the film is bad, he's good.
He's just cool dad. But yeah, I don't know. I felt like it was quite a silly film. It didn't make sense in terms of the plot, in the way it developed, the character development. It didn't make much sense. And then it's all about, I guess, these hackers hacking satellites, which led to Teslas smashing into each other. And or self-driven cars just smashing by themselves, and planes falling down, and then suddenly there's loads of deer.
Yeah,
I don't know, and then the deer are really angry.
Okay, like in The Day After Tomorrow when all the wolves turn up and they're really angry.
Yeah,
and you're
it's
like,
kind
what's
of like
that about?
COVID.
And I'm like,
all the deers just.
All the goats descended on
I love that.
Llandudno in Wales. Remember that?
Yeah, I love that.
But were they friendly?
Reasonably,
No,
yeah.
I don't think so.
Well, I don't know. Everyone was at home, so they didn't get the goats. Didn't manage to get into
they
the
just
people's
took
homes.
over.
They just decided to roam around the town and
But
just
things.
go on the pier and play in the arcades and stuff.
No, these deers were really upset about the whole satellite business.
Right. He had stocks in his satellite.
So it just felt a bit. It felt a bit jumbled up. It didn't make enticing. It didn't
Okay.
come together as a cohesive piece. My overall thing is I would skip it personally.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I've got to
Yeah.
admit, a lot of what you said has kind of sold it to me. And I don't know.
Damn it.
I do like
You do
a
have
trashy. What's
Yeah.
that?
Questionable taste, Paul.
Actually, if you liked men, I think you might like
Yeah.
this.
Well, you know,
that should be on the poster.
I like a good bit of like tasteful trash, man. Like I really, like the trashier side of M. Night Shyamalan stuff. I like
Yes.
like The Happening and all that
Yes,
kind of
you-
stuff. And
Oh,
Old. Did you see Old?
Oh yes, I saw
This is
Old.
Right.
this is a bit oldie.
Okay.
Yeah.
a bit
All right.
like Old.
I'm
There's
on
there's a
board.
beach.
Right. Okay.
There's chaos.
There's a beach. There's deer.
Yeah.
Doesn't
That
make any
sounds great.
sense.
Wicked.
Yeah.
Right. I know. Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. No, you sold it to me.
Brilliant.
Sounds 5 stars. I was actually going to watch that film that I've forgotten what it's called. Leave the World Behind, because I didn't think I would be able to finish work early enough to go and see this film that I'm going to talk about, but I actually did, and that film was Wonka. And I'll be honest, I didn't really have any interest in a new Willy Wonka film. I didn't really. Wasn't that excited about it until I heard that it was going to be directed by Paul King, formerly of the Mighty Boosh, and who went on to direct the Paddington films, which for me are up there with The Muppet Christmas Carol in, bona fide objective masterpieces. And it's also co-written by Simon Farnaby from, British comedy.
There's a lot of British comedy alumni in there.
Yes, yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
a massive Peep Show fan, and I myself as well didn't fancy Wonka, but there's so many Peep Show, former Peep Show cast
Was
members in
Superhands
it.
in it?
Superhands isn't in it, but it,
No,
it
but,
does have what's his name, the boss.
Johnson's in it.
Johnson's in it.
And Sophie.
Yes,
Sophie's
and
in
it's got
it,
Olivia.
and Simon's in it.
Yeah, Olivia Colman and Simon, and it's also got another wonderful performance by Hugh Grant, who I just think is just getting better and better in his later career. He's just having more and more fun, and just he's
Or
just,
less fun, I would say. I'd say he's
you'd
getting
say?
grumpy. I think he personally is not we're
That's-
having fun at his expense, I feel like. He just doesn't seem like he enjoys anything anymore in life. Do you know what I mean? Like, he just seems constantly miserable, but I find that weirdly comforting.
This is
Right, yeah.
This is a little side note, but I actually read an article about his performance. He didn't like it. He didn't like the experience. He didn't know what he was doing. Apparently,
in Wonka.
Yeah, apparently the director he didn't know where he was being filmed. He thought his body was existing in the film, and apparently it wasn't.
Oh,
and he just
right.
wasn't getting any direction.
Oh, right.
So yeah, he was a bit grumpy about it.
Oh,
But
well.
he's grumpy about everything these days, isn't he?
Oh,
but that's why we like him.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Hugh, but I thought you were very good in the film. So keep it up. Keep up. You carry on doing that acting that you do.
Yeah.
You're all right. You're all right. So obviously, I wanted to go see it after hearing the pedigree that was involved in it, because Paddington, just perfect films. And this has all the beautiful hallmarks of those films. It's got the impeccable production design, the immensely detailed world building that depicts a romanticized world that just doesn't exist and never will. And I don't know, I find something quite comforting about that.
Would you say it's shallamazing? That was the worst fake laugh I've ever heard.
Yes, no, I would. Tim Chalamet was very good in it. I'll give
Don't
you
you
that.
think he's the next movie star?
Well,
'Cause I know-
He is the
Tim-
movie star right now.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, because like him and maybe Zendaya. Because I think that's something that people have said, we don't have any movie stars anymore. Maybe. I feel like there's a few bubbling under. I
Wait,
feel like Anya Taylor-Joy could be a movie star.
Yeah, Mia
think
Goth,
she's, um,
Mia Goth, I'd say.
I don't
No.
know if she's a movie star
Florence
yet.
Pugh.
Ryan Gosling.
Florence Pugh's...
Ryan Gosling is...
I love
is-
Ryan Gosling.
But he's been bubbling under for a while, but Barbie's really...
Like, a movie star
Pushed
has to
him
be
out.
someone that will
can-
will sell a film regardless of what the film.
Yeah.
People just don't know what the film is about, but will go and see that
Yeah.
film because it's got him in it. So you'd go and see the new Brad Pitt thing, but would you go see the new Timothée Chalamet film?
I might do.
I
think he's the next Tom Cruise, and this is my prediction. I think he's going to bulk up over the next few years and get into the old action movies. I think I can see his career following the Tom Cruise trajectory.
Well, I mean, he is in Dune. I'd say it's quite actiony.
Yeah. I think we're going to see
just
more of that.
Not bulked up, I suppose.
Yeah, we're going to see more of that.
Yeah, maybe.
That's
your prediction.
Yeah.
Trying to think of other movie stars. I would definitely go. I mean, I would see anything with Florence Pugh in.
Yeah, that doesn't mean she's a movie star, Paul. That just means you fancy her.
Florence, if you're listening, please email me.
At pictureshow@brumradio.com. She's listening.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, this is this
a
could be a
debate
whole,
for another time. Maybe that'll be our next show.
Yes. Are movie stars still a thing?
Yeah.
That is the question. But anyway, I did thoroughly enjoy it, and like the Paddington films, it manages to have a beautiful emotional heart that never quite tips into the saccharine, pun intended, because sugar and chocolate and stuff. And
yeah, nice.
Yeah, it's sweet.
Sweet.
So yeah,
that pun wasn't intended, was it? Sweet.
But I will say it didn't connect with me emotionally on the level that the Paddington films did. But I admit that's probably just for personal reasons. Like Paddington was far more of an integral part of my childhood than Willy Wonka was. And this film did make me cry at the end, but in Paddington 2, I was just in floods of tears from the start. Really, I was a mess. So it must have been quite awkward for the people sat next to me, to be honest, because there was just it's just a kid screening, and there's just man on his own, just audibly sobbing. For most of the film.
I'm surprised someone didn't call security.
I know.
Mummy, why is that man crying?
I don't know.
No, honestly, that was one of those film going experiences that just got me so much. Just the moment it started, I was just a mess. I was. So I was kind of disappointed because I did.
Because you weren't a mess.
Yeah, because I did come to this film to have a really good cry, and then I had
had a little one.
I just had a little bit of a cry, and that wasn't quite enough, really. But I will say it's one of the perfect examples of just how much in film criticism in general, how much your mindset going into a film will affect your experience of it, because I've had personally a lot of stuff going on in the back of my brain. And also for about the first half an hour to 45 minutes, there were these two girls like along the row talking to each other and illuminating their food with their phones. And it was just like it was the kind of thing where it wasn't quite frequent enough for me to go over, but then still enough that every time they started up talking again, it just took me out, and then it just made me that little bit angrier. And it's quite difficult to get emotionally invested in a film when you're being distracted like that, and there's that kind of thing can really stop you from enjoying something properly. So I will fully admit that maybe if I'd seen this film on a different day with a different audience in a different context, I would have come away thinking, this is up there with Paddington, this is a 5-star masterpiece. But as it was, I just came away thinking, oh yeah, that was really nice.
That's fair.
But
That's fair.
Just didn't cry enough. So
just some.
You're too angry.
I actually have a letterbox list of films that made me cry, and I rate them by how much they made me cry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so that would have been a 1 tier. Sad face.
Exactly. 1 tier.
Whereas some of the the best films on that list, full floods, 2 or 3 floods of tear face emojis.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just a 1 tier.
Exactly.
Sad face.
One tier sad face. That's a good rating system.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. I'm going to start employing it. Trying to think of what else has made me cry recently. It's just not enough, frankly.
Not enough.
There's nothing better than going to the cinema on your own and having a really good cry. Anyway,
do you specifically choose the kids screening? So?
That is the case. I always do worry because I go to the cinema on my own like quite a lot, and there's like I do wonder. There's a certain level of kids film that you think it's just not appropriate for me to go and see this film on my own. Like Paw Patrol. Couldn't have got
No,
away with that.
no.
As much as I was looking forward to that. But
And if you were crying, just floods of tears at Paw Patrol.
exactly. That Wonka I felt was an acceptable,
Yeah.
Wonka's fine.
acceptable
Yeah.
film. And if anyone questions me, I'll be like, "Oi, I'm a film journalist."
Exactly.
That's
Let
right.
me cry in peace.
Yeah, I'm not on the radio. Let me have a bit of a cry. I don't care if it's upsetting your child.
And on that note,
Now we're both crying.
Yeah. So now, without further ado, it is time to go on to Nadine's update of the local news and events.
yes, so quick roundup of the screenings, the Birmingham, UK screenings that we've got, a lot of our local community cinemas. Like I said, do check out our independent cinemas as well. The Electric, Everyman, Mockingbird, some great alternative Christmas films being shown. On the 17th of December, we're going to be showing Home Alone, so a fairly traditional Christmas film, I'd say, at the station in Kings Heath, and all proceeds will be going to Kings Heath Food Bank, and we welcome extra donations of cash and food as well. But what's more Christmassy than giving to others? The Journey Film Club will be showing Love Actually on the 19th of December at the Birmingham LGBT Centre. On the 21st, Sturchley Open Cinema are showing their own alternative Christmas film, Rare Exports, at Brum Brewery, so please do check that out on the 21st of December. On the 27th of December, Highbury Cinema will be showing Matilda the Musical at Highbury Theatre Centre, Sutton Coldfield, and one of my favourites, I've never been there, but I just like saying Beckenham, the Feckenodian.
We love the Feckenodian.
Yeah, I hope you're listening, guys. The Feckenodian in Feckenham will be showing My Fair Lady on the 30th of December. So that takes you right through the Christmas period. And I just want to plug some of our own screenings coming up in January. We've got The Muppet Movie on the 6th. On the 6th of January at the Hub Hazelwell. That's another charity screening. All proceeds going to Kinmos. And we'll have our 5th birthday in January. We'll have our 5th birthday screening on the 18th of January at the Cuban Embassy, and we'll be showing some Midland short films. And the last one was very, very well received. So do grab your tickets for that while you can. They're available now. www.ticketsource.co.uk/screen-B14. It's sold out last time, so do get on it with those tickets. And we'll be showing The Red Shoes on the 27th of January, and that'll be a great screening, so do check that out at Mersey Dance Centre. And all our tickets can be bought at ticketsource.co.uk/screen-B14.
Rory, I believe you had something to plug?
Yes, I do. I am directing a short film called Letters from Space, speaking of short films. And yeah, we have a crowdfunder. It's a sci-fi film about a family coming together and using sort of science fiction, as using the metaphors in science fiction for that. Just Google Letters from Space crowdfunder, you'll find it. But yeah, any money, anything just is worth it, or even sharing it.
Can I just say, I read the script, so me and Rory meet up regularly and work on screenplays together, and it is a cracker. It's a brilliant script, so I can't wait to see it. It's going to be amazing. So I'll be donating some money to that.
Lovely. So Rory, you're saying this is something that could advance your career?
Hopefully. I'll have to go to a few more networking events.
All right, cool. So if you could just disregard that, listeners, and ignore what he's just said, because we want to keep him here.
There's a real Brum Christmas. Oh no.
Yeah,
no, that's this week.
Yeah, I was going to say the other thing is it won the City on Screen award. Well, it's part of 3 films where we got funding. So yeah, if you want to be a part
City
of that,
on Screen.
Yeah, there we go. Which
Pretty
you were
Hate
a
Productions.
previous
Yeah, well, we
supporter
both worked on a previous City on Screen film, Blackout. I directed, and Rory was my first AD. And it screened at the Birmingham Film Festival not so long ago, and was very well received.
Lovely. So thanks very much for joining us for another episode of the Brum Picture Show. Do not forget to email us at pictureshow@brumradio.com.
Check us out on Letterboxd. I list every film mentioned in the show for no other reason than I like making lists. So yeah, check us out on Letterboxd or at ScreenB14 on all the major social networking platforms.
And be sure to join us next time for a very special look back at 2023. But in the meantime, it's goodbye from me, Paul.
Goodbye from me, Nadine.
And goodbye from me, Rory.
Goodbye.
You have been listening to The Brum Picture Show, a Screen B14 production for Brum Radio. Tune in next time for more film fun, and don't forget to email us at pictureshow@brumradio.com. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.
Did you know the Christmas present is a pun?
And it's a
Christmas
gift.
present, yeah.
That's why they call it the present.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was quite the insight, Nadine. Thank you.
You know when you're just reading something and you just while you're reading it, you're like, oh my God, this has just hit me.
I mean, it hadn't occurred to me either, to be honest.
The ghost
but
of Christmas present.
who knew that Dickens was such a punmeister? I was trying to think of some Dickens puns. We got any off-the-cuff Dickens puns?
Olive or twist.
What?
Have you not heard that joke? There's a cartoon and Charles Dickens is like really depressed and he's in a bar and he's like, oh, I've just run out of ideas, man. I don't know what to call my next novel. And the barman is serving him a martini or something and he's like, olive or twist?
Oh,
Oliver Twist?
right.
Oh, never mind.
Thank you for listening to this Brum Radio podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and rate us on your podcast app.